What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. We are here with the final installment of the primary preview, and you know what? We've been wrong this whole time, right? We did not have our priorities straight, but we do now. Priority assets is here. We're here to talk about the golden disposition, maybe we'll call it, because this is what only the 3DP detachments are getting. It seems like, Phil, is that what's been going on here?
It seems to be the trend. If you have a good detachment that is 3 detachment points, guess what? You probably claim priority assets. And when we go through it, you'll understand why they didn't give it Purge the Foe. They didn't give it Take and Hold. There's a reason they gave it priority assets, because they're trying to balance the game with, hey, we have a strong detachment, but we're going to give a less strong or more difficult disposition. And they're going to try to balance those things out. So, if you are planning on playing that strong Gladius or Blades of Ultramar or whatever that is your 3DP that's forcing you on priority assets, you better tune in, because we're going to give you some tools that you need to have to win games, even when your disposition is potentially more difficult than the ones that we've talked about previously.
Yeah, it is going to be a little bit more strenuous. It's going to be, and it's all within a spectrum, right? We're not saying that these are impossible to play or anything like that. It's just they are definitely taking an approach of, hey, we just want to make sure that these are at least reeled in terms of how their primaries play. They're doing monthly updates anyway, so if it does turn out this is maybe a little too tough for people even playing some of the best attachments in the game, like Gladius or Blades, they're probably going to see a tune-up, and they're going to get little extra points here and there. So I'm not too worried about it. I think the people who are good at playing Warhammer with those good detachments are still going to be just fine with priority assets. But up first, we have the priority assets first take and hold mission, which is secure asset. As always, we will start with the action that you will have to be doing. Secure asset starts in your shooting phase. As always, one friendly unit within range of an objective excluding your home, and once per turn. At the end of your turn, if you control that objective, it does go off, and you have successfully secured the asset in any battle round. Huh? Yeah. Woo! You did the thing. You have secured the asset, and that means you get a nice 4 VP because a friendly unit secured the asset this turn, and then at least one enemy unit that started the turn within range of one or more central objectives was destroyed. You'll get an additional 2 VP. So that's nice. If your opponent ever looks at you and goes, you know what? I see that two victory points you could get over there. I think I'm just going to put a piece of trash right there on my central objective and just give you some free points. I don't see many people scoring this unless it's an absolute trap. Yeah. Don't pay attention to the 2 points. Second battle round onwards, end of your command phase or end of your turn. If it is a 5th battle round, you control one or more objectives excluding your home, and then another 4 VP on top of the 4 for holding 1. If you control 3 or more objectives, it is nice that this does not require you to, have them at the end of the battle, right? It's end of your turn, even in the 5th battle round. So that's a nice 8 points turn 5, I think. You're going to be planning for that part, because as we talked about, there's very definitive timings and places you have to score your points within priority assets. It doesn't have quite the freedom. The points are still there, but it's a little bit more rigid. So that's one of those things that you're really going to have to be looking at and have a plan. You're going to really want to be able to hold 3 or more objectives come turn 5.
Yeah. So the distinction here from what we've seen from every other disposition is this actually has 3 facets to it. We need to hold something to get points. We need to kill something to get points, and we need to do an action. That is why this disposition it is going to be one of those things that 3 detachment point detachments are going to have to be cognizant of, because that is a lot more than what all the other dispositions are asking for. Some of them are only asking for 1 thing to score the majority of your points, or they're only asking for 2 things to score the majority of your points. This is asking for 3 separate items, which is the main way we've seen scoring points all the way from 9th, 10th to now, is either an action, controlling objectives, or killing our opponent. This has all 3. So it's going to be more challenging. You got to be prepared to do this.
Yeah. And it's not going to be super hard to score reasonable primary, right? Like 44 even is a pretty easy number to hit, I think. Once you get into the second battle round, right, you're playing take and hold. Are they not going to have something on a central objective, right? You as long as you have the material, you're going to trade. You will get those 2 points, right? You're going to get them in turn 2, though. We just, maybe you'll get them turn 1 if you, for some reason, they give you a piece of trash in deployment, or they drew a secondary, right? Those scenarios can happen. But, in general, you still can get them. It's just going to require you to be very focused on doing all 3 of the things, as Phil said, throughout the game to really be, making the most of your primary.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on. Purge the foe in priority assets. It is the vital link. Once again, let's start with the action because it makes the most sense so we can get a little context. It starts in your shooting phase, 1 friendly unit within range of 1 central objective. The use limit is once per turn, and it completes at the end of your turn if you control that objective, and then the effect is place 1 of your operations marker within range of that objective. Any battle round, end of your turn, you control 1 or more objectives, you get 2. And then this is cumulative. For each of your operation markers within range of 1 of those objectives, you get an additional. So you control 2 central objective and you have 2 operation markers. That means you're getting 6 points total each battle round at the end of your turn. From the second battle round onwards, at the end of your command phase or the end of your turn in the 5th battle round, once again, more bottom of 5 scoring, which we love for both players, you control 1 or more objectives. That is 4 VP, excluding your home, obviously. And then cumulative, if 1 or more of those objectives is a central objective, you get an additional 4 VP. So you could very easily control your home or control a natural objective and then also control the central objective, and you can get an 8. Or you can just control the middle central objective at the end of your command phase, and you will score an 8 for that because it's not multiple. It's just control 1 or more objective. And then if 1 or more of those is a central objective, you get the additional 4. And then the end of the battle, you control your opponent's home objective. That is 10 VP. This is another time that we've seen that where GW has decided to try to motivate you to send it on bottom of 5 to try to flip your opponent's home, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think this one is very interesting. End of your turn, any battle round, right? Score 2 for controlling a central objective, right? Just as a whole, that's about all that really matters in this. As you read through there was not a fucking peep about really actually having to hold your natural. You can to have like a guaranteed 4 points of like a backup primary, you're still going to want to have stuff on there. But like realistically, if you just can hold the center for the entire game, like that is a win con right there. It's pretty good. And if it is a split center objective, then you are able to get potentially, as Phil was saying, the 6 points. Otherwise, if there's just a 1, you're going to be very happy to take 3 because you're going to want it. You're really going to want to get the 3. And it's also one of those things where I don't know. I'm trying to think here, Phil, is it doesn't say anything about having to keep doing this over and over again. And there's no removal of once it is done, the maintain control objective.
On there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, man, is it? Yeah, no, it's just once you do it, it's done. So you're gonna go out turn 1 and do it to the center, and if there's 2 of them, you'll try to do it to both. And
well, it's only once per turn, so like
it's a turn 2. You'll try to do the other one, but if you can do it to your opponent's natural, so the action is at least done, right? So the marker is there, whether you hold it or not. And then you'll probably do your own the next turn because obviously you'll be able to do that. Like that's going to kind of be a general game plan if it is a split map with 2 centrals. And then you're just going to try to hold it against a purge the foe opponent who, for some reason, I have this sneaking feeling that against armies that are trying to kill me, I don't love the idea of being like, well, I need to just stand my army out in the open in the middle of the board to get primary.
Yeah.
But you can still do it. It's just going to take, really making sure you are positioning well. If they are, if they're a melee army, right, it's still going to come down to how well can you kind of, put screens out front, some more of your trash units, really make, a good use of heroic intervention, fights first, interrupts, things like that, reactive moves. there's still going to be just a ton of tools that a lot of these 3 detachment point detachments have access to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this is hard or impossible by any means. It's just, a very specific thing you need to be ready to do.
Absolutely. Okay, we will move on to the next, which is disruption into priority assets. The mission is extract relic.
All right, so the action for this one is sensor sweep. It is the only mission that does have the same action for both sides of the mission. And you are in your shooting phase 1 friendly unit within range of a central objective once per turn. End of your turn, it will go off if your unit controls that objective, and you will effectively complete a sensor sweep and remove 1 operation marker from the battlefield. And a unit cannot start this action if only 1 operation marker remains on the battlefield. So first, before we go to the next part, we probably should explain what objective or operation markers we're talking about here. Disruption, your opponent is going to put 5 little markers down in the battlefield in no man's land, and you will both be able to pick those up throughout the game, and you are both going to score points on whether you hold those, or if you are the priority assets player, if you do the action successfully. So we'll go through that part, and then we'll really focus on kind of what each of you are looking to do. So in any battle round, the end of your turn, a friendly unit performed a sensor sweep this turn for 4 VP. Up next, 1 or more enemy units that started the turn within range of 1 or more objectives are destroyed, and you get 3 VP for that. And then only one of your opponent's operation markers is on the battlefield. If 1 or more units of yours are within the same terrain area as that operation marker, and no enemy units are within that terrain area, you will score 4 VP. And then continuing on, second battle round onwards, control 1 or more objectives, excluding your home objective, for 4 VP. And then end of the battle, only 1 of your opponent's operation markers are on the battlefield. If 1 or more of your units are within the same terrain area as the operation marker, and no enemy units are within that terrain area, you score 5 VP.
So for those that watched the disruption video, you saw the other side of this, which was they wanted to stop you from getting units on the operation marker at the end of the game. You were trying to get up on the operation marker at the end of the game. This reminds me of supply drop, where the objectives are slowly disappearing, but you and your opponent have the agency to slowly remove each one of these operation markers, and you're obviously both getting points off the removal of them. It just matters of who's going to have the last one, because there is going to be 5 on the board, which means it specifically says you cannot remove an operation marker if there's only 1. So you're getting down to 1, and maybe it's going to turn out that it's always going to be the central one, but I doubt it, because I know me personally, I'm probably trying to do that middle one first. And I'm trying to flip, or I'm trying to sweep my opponent's natural or whatever one that's selected, because in this mission specifically, the disruption player is the one that gets to decide where all the markers are. You don't as the priority assets player. So you are, I'm not going to say at their, you are playing their game, but at this point they're the ones who have the control of the disruption markers. So there's going to be a game within a game of like where the disruption player places the markers, and then you slowly removing them to make sure that at the end of the game you have access to an operation marker that you can go stand on to go get that 5 VP for end of battle.
Yeah, it's definitely, as we talked about in that video, it is a chess game for sure. Of, are you trying to remove things on your side, on their side? How is that going to progress the game as you fight over the different objectives, continuing, as the game goes on. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm really excited to get to play this one at some point, because I feel like you can't, you got to have some data. You got to live through it. You got to experience the priority assets versus disruption to truly understand it.
Yep. There's one way to find out. Definitely going to have to play games, but hopefully this initial talk through and explanation puts you in the right mindset, because you need to have a plan of either going after your opponent's operation markers and try to remove them, or a combination of doing that and protecting your own, right? Not letting them get to the point where they can get on these objectives. It's something like, you'll see a video that we have coming out soon, or you'll have already watched it, where we got on with the 40k dirtbags, talked about some of the huge impactful changes for 11th edition. One of those is heroic intervention. And every single one of these missions, I keep seeing it come up of like, how are we going to prevent our opponent from doing things? The majority of the time, it's a heroic intervention. It's a, hey, even if you don't charge, if you go within 6 of me, I'm going to charge you. And having that tool and having that agency across your army is one of those things that for a lot of these missions, you're going to need to have to be able to do to stop your opponent from scoring.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think this is going to be another just you're doing all the things, I guess, right? As Phil, you had kind of talked about, right? Doing actions, trying to kill things, trying to hold things. It's just you're gonna have to be doing everything here again as a priority assets player.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Next up, this is reconnaissance into priority assets. This is Vanguard operation. We'll start with the action first. It happens in your shooting phase. One friendly unit within terrain area located in enemy territory. That is a significant distinction once per turn. At the end of your turn, it completes, provided no enemy units are within that terrain area. It has nothing to do with OC, has nothing to do with objectives. Your unit performs a Vanguard operation. A friendly unit performed a Vanguard operation this turn, you get 4 VP. One or more enemy units were destroyed this turn. That is 2 VP. That is any battle round, and it happens at the end of your turn. From the second battle round onwards, end of your command phase, or the end of your turn in the fifth battle round, you control one or more objectives, excluding your home. That's 4. And then end of the battle, you control your opponent's home. It is 10. Significant things of note. The Vanguard operation is not an objective or operations marker. So you can do that on the same piece of terrain multiple times as long as it's in your opponent's territory. There's no restriction on that. So every turn you could go ahead and do that. But this one is very simple in the sense that it's really do an action, once again, kill things, once again, control one or more objectives, once again. So, like, once again, we're seeing 3 splits of how to score points. And that is a trend that, when Lane and I reviewed all of these, that is a trend that we see in priority assets.
Yeah, yep, doing all the things once again, and I don't know, it's nice. I think I can see myself with a combi lieutenant if I'm a Space Marine player, finding a little spot to tow into and that's in their area, but as far back as I can be, and just trying to keep doing this action until you come kill me, and then I'm just gonna have a pocket second and a pocket third combi lieutenant to just keep doing this action. No, but I think it's one of the things that as we've kind of discussed is right. You're really having to do everything in this disposition. So when you're building your list, you have to bring enough pieces to do all the actions. Thankfully, none of them are uber action heavy, right? It's very rare you're going to have to, do 3 actions or more in a turn, right? A lot of the times these are do 1 action and then kill something and then hold some stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like it is nice that you don't have to be committing quite as hard as maybe like a disruption player to needing so many pieces generally as a game plan, but you definitely still need some in there to be able to kind of take on that load. It's just especially things that are survivable and stuff that can sit kind of maybe in the open or wherever, but just keep doing the thing as often as possible.
The priority assets feels like the list that you would take in 10th edition in singles is the list that you would take with priority assets. Like you're obviously going to take the good detachments, but you're going to have a nice balanced list that can do a bunch of things. It can go out and score early. It can go kill things that it needs to kill. It has the range to do what it needs to do. It has the flexibility to do what it needs to do, which is why you're seeing this in a lot of those 3 detachments, because that's what they're encouraging is a more balanced approach versus like take and hold and purge and disruption, where like we are starting to skew slightly towards a specific play style because we're playing that specific disposition.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. It's, as we had to intent, like you were saying, right? You had to be ready for everything as you went to a GT, but that was because it was different game to game. And there's variance game to game here, but like you are just having to do everything in all of these missions here. So you definitely need to have kind of that balance list for sure.
Okay. All right. Our last one. This is the mirror lane. This is Sabotage. Why don't you go over this action for us?
Yeah, so Sabotage, your shooting phase, 1 unit within range of an objective, excluding your home. It is unlimited. Each unit that starts this action in this phase must be within range of a different objective. And at the end of your turn, if you control that objective, it will go off. And your unit has successfully sabotaged. Yeah, that sounds reasonable, right? And then for any battle round at the end of your turn, for each friendly unit that committed sabotage this turn, you will get 3 VP. And for each of those units that did it within range of an objective marker in your opponent's territory, you get an additional 2 VP. That's That's one way to score. There's no killing here, as we will notice, but there is still holding, right? The standard end of your command phase or end of your turn, if it's the 5th, control one or more objectives, excluding your home for 4 VP. This is this is the more action heavy version of, of priority assets. And your opponent is going to be doing the same thing. So you're just going to sit there standing across from each other, just sabotaging as much as possible. You won't interact or anything. You'll just stand there for 5 long turns and do actions. Yeah, I mean, initial thoughts, right? Like you're going to be trying to sabotage at least twice per turn if you can, right? Get the 6 VP and then get the 4 for holding. If you're able to do that, I think it's going to depend. I guess I have yet actually, Phil, and you might know this. You've had a little more time. Do central objectives count as being within range of or within your opponent's territory?
So this is a discussion that I've had with multiple individuals. It doesn't say wholly within.
Yep.
It just says within your opponent's territory. If we go by all the verbiage that we've used up to this point, is yes, that would count as being in your opponent's territory.
Right. So you do it twice, and that's 8 VP, right? You can hit the center objective. You can do it, on your natural. Solid 8 VP every turn. Not mad about that because that's a 40 base points if you can pull that off. It's there. The ability to do it is there for sure. Your opponent's going to be doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I really am excited to actually get around to finally looking at the maps more in depth and kind of looking at how am I going to prevent my opponent from being able to do these things, because a lot of these detachments that have this are so killy that like killing things off the middle and having something stand there to do this and also doing it on their natural, like that's a very low bar, right? Like it's going to come down a lot, I think, to the attrition in this mirror match. And I think that's probably why this is one of the highest or easiest scoring ones we've seen within priority assets, is because you're both priority assets. So it doesn't matter. As long as your detachments are roughly balanced, the mission itself is balanced around your disposition and your detachments. So it's okay that you guys are going to both have the potential to score a lot of primary because you're generally very efficient detachments when it comes to damage output.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like there's some clarification we need from GW there. If my understanding is correct, and based on their verbiage and everything they've done so far, that is the understanding that I'm going off of. And then it specifically doesn't reference, so just in terms of how it reads, for each of those unit that is within range of one or more objective in your opponent's territory, that means that, just based on what I'm reading, is the unit itself that's doing the action doesn't need to be in our opponent's territory. Just the objective itself needs to be in your opponent's territory. So like for that central objective, if it's one of those big ones and I do it on the other side, on my side, but because that objective is technically within my opponent's territory, it is much easier for me to do that and potentially not get hurt nearly as much. So like overall, very interesting. Overall, really like it. But then I need some clarification from GW because this isn't the only time. On Search and Destroy, on any of those layouts, all 3 objectives are technically within our opponent's territory.
Yeah, and it's super weird. Thankfully, I think for the most part, the ones I've seen at least, the times it comes up is a lot more of for some, like they save Search and Destroy to be a lot more common in the mirror matches for matchups. So I think that does help a little bit, right? You're playing on an even ground then. It's not a huge shakeup of like, oh, well, the tipping point is totally different from the Search and Destroy and stuff like that. Like it's still just the same, like it's a mirrored mission. There's not some drastic shift in who has an advantage based off of the deployment.
Yep, absolutely fair. Okay, Lane, that is the last one. We have gone through all 5 dispositions. What are your thoughts? We kind of hinted at it as we were talking through. What is the priority assets player if they're taking their super cracked detachment? What do they need to have in priority assets to be successful?
Yeah, they as I mean we said it before, right? You need to have a good balanced list, right? You're gonna just be doing the same things you did in 10th edition. This is going to be the detachments that are already just very, very strong. You're going to be trying to really focus on, as you're trying to still do these actions and hold the primary and stuff, you're going to try to leverage the fact that generally these detachments that have this disposition are detachments that are ultimately fairly strong, fairly lethal, and just are able to really kind of put on the pressure and have good board control. a lot of the time, and whether that's from just oppressive shooting or very fast good melee. Like there's so many ways to be able to do that thing that it's just going to really make you as a priority assets player just have to still just be flexible and take everything you need to do those actions, to kill things, and to still hold primer. Like it's not really a shakeup at all. This is the most similar to playing in 10th we've seen by far.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Can't agree more.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to, we're excited to deep dive, right? This is one of our favorite things, is to really, give y'all the information in terms of breaking down specific missions on specific maps and everything like that. We're definitely looking forward to diving into that, but to probably evergreen that content a little bit, we might wait for some of the FAQs, as we just talked about, of learning whether or not those objectives are in their territory or out of their territory. But as soon as we're like 100% confident, y'all are going to get some fucking kick-ass videos talking all about these missions in more depth. And in the meantime, I think we're probably going to, we're going to have to start talking about some of these army previews we've got, right? We got some access to dispositions. Some list building can start going on here. I think it's time to start maybe going back to the kitchen and cooking up some lists. Phil, what do you think?
We got some sauce. Let me tell you, I'm so excited. My Gene Stealer cult, super hyped. My Space Marines, there's so many different ways I could do it. Death Watcher's still alive, thank goodness. So I got some tools. I'm ready to go. And we have more content to come. I would love to say that we get it early, but Lane and I, we are enjoying this just as quickly as the rest of y'all. So we are excited for the next bits of content to come. Please hit us up in the Discord if you have any questions. The list reviews are coming for list 4. So make sure you are prepared to start submitting your list so we can take a look at them and give you some feedback, because we have a lot of players that are in our community that love talking about 40K, and we'll bring them on and talk about your list. And yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right. Well, like and subscribe if you have not already. We really appreciate it. Comment down below on which of these you are looking forward to playing into or, as. And tell us all about it. We really appreciate the engagement. It helps us out a lot. And as always, do not forget that victory isn't given. It is forged, and is forged right here on Mastercrafted. We will see you all next series.